Hi, welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode 110. This week's episode is kind of a follow-on to last week. We talked about 10 tips to produce your photo sessions. I had one. This week, we're going to let you know how it went. Hi, my name is William Beem.
Hi, my name is William Beem.
And I want to let you know that show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 110. And there are links to subscribe there and also at our player at photoflunky.com. Okay, let's just skip right on ahead to kind of the meat of this thing. Came up with this list and a process, and we talked through about how to produce your photo session. I went through, I got some shots. I think I've got a number of shots that I think are very good.
Yeah, there's some great ones in there.
But my process of getting there was a little bit anxious. Yeah, that's an understatement. Let me tell you first off. Here's what happened: is I had this photo shoot with a friend of mine. She's the model I met 15 years ago. I'd been on one photo shoot with her then, which was kind of like a swimwear photo shoot, and I haven't seen her since. And she's moved from doing swimwear stuff, and she did like the professional bikini competition stuff. Then she got into weightlifting, and she's now a world record holding, power lifter. She's fun. I've kept up in touch with her online, and this is the first time we got back together again. And I think she's beautiful. I think she's got a wonderful smile. She reminds me of exactly the way she was 15 years ago.
Yeah, she's lovely.
I mean, she really is. But there are a couple of things going on, and I wanted to let you know why this photo session was somewhat different than other photo sessions that I've done and how that have impacted me with my efforts to produce this. So what's really different about this is usually if I do a photo session, either we've done some here in the house where, like, my friend Kevin came over one time and we've done our own with a family. And I've got all my stuff here and I set it up. And usually there's a great deal of profanity while I'm setting things up.
Yeah, just a bit.
When I'm out in front of a model or someone else, there's no profanity. But
no, he saves that for us.
I saved that for my family. Kevin came over. We did his photographs. We've done ours. And then I know what's where and more or less where it is. And I kind of put it back in the same place. If I go out and I've done some photo sessions with other models, it's been with a very small kit, basically like one stand, a flash, and a light modifier along with my camera gear. This was different. This one, I really wanted to produce something grander, and I had a lot of gear that I took with me. I filled up my trunk and then still had more that I had to put inside of my, the backseat of my car.
He had so much stuff, he left his wife behind.
I did. All right, so here's what really happened. Let's start off with, that was why the shoot was different, is because I was just taking so much stuff that's normally like a home studio environment and trying to transport that someplace else. One of the things that I mentioned on the previous week's episode was step number 5, gather your resources. And I already knew why I needed this photo. That was number 1. This is because I want to do, a portfolio of athletes. I kind of had my message and story. We had the visuals of what the shots were going to be. We did some portraits and we also did some, powerlifting stuff. Got everybody together, but the part where it says, gather your resources. Let Lee tell you a little bit about what that was like.
Remember that thing about the profanity?
Yes.
That's always, I wasn't even asking you. But yeah, the gathering resources for a photo shoot is always where the profanity comes in.
I couldn't find some of my stuff. I know where, most of my stuff is, but there were key pieces that I wanted that I haven't used in quite a while. And let's just face it, I'm not the most organized person when it comes to my gear.
It's just always kind of stressful getting the stuff.
I've got some of the stuff here in my home office. I've got some of the stuff in the garage. And then we've got 2 different places in the garage where some of the stuff is. And then we found that some of the stuff wasn't in either of those places.
Yeah, I know. I think the very first photo shoot that you did was a family shoot one Christmas, and watching the setup and the taking down and how stressful it is. I always thought, well, by that stage, I kind of knew that portraits weren't really going to be a major thing where I was going to focus. After that, and I've never gone back on it, I knew for certain that I never ever want to do portrait photography. And it's the setup, it's getting the stuff together, the setting up and the taking apart. I've got other things I'd rather do. Here's part of the problem is, like I said, I've got some very specific shots in mind. Well, I did a lot of research and you were watching me while I was doing that. And we had some concepts in mind that would require more than just one flash and a softbox. Yeah. So I went over there with my 3 Elinchrom, was it BRXI or BXRI? I can't remember, 500 strobes. And I needed power for those. And of course, if I'm going to have power, then I need electrical cords, extension cords. And then I need a little power strip so I can plug things in. Yeah.
And just getting like the power cords was a real treat.
That was funny.
Oh, I've got a dog barking outside.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 3 long orange power cords. One of them was in my camera bag. One of them I found nearby, and it was as filthy as could be, but it was there. And then we had another one that was over by the garage where I used to charge up, the battery on my Harley. And it's exceptionally long. And I guess I never realized how long it was because it was just bundled up in a mess on the garage floor.
Yes.
And we found out, what was this thing, like more than 50 feet, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. But I also know, when you've got a cable or a cord or something that's kind of long and it gets tangled, if a man has it, let him give it to you. It doesn't matter what house, and that's not about you or anything. It's just, I'm sorry, there are a ton of things that men do much better than we do, but untangling a cable is not one of them.
Well, I was untangling it. It's just there was a lot of language that was happening as I was doing it. And here's the problem is, like, while I'm doing that and I'm saying all these words, she's stressing out because I'm apparently stressed out.
Well, the shoot was important to you.
It is important to me.
I don't want you to be stressed.
This is something that's either left over from my father or somebody broke into the garage and left it there.
Yeah, that happens a lot here.
There are things in my house I have no idea where they come from.
Reverse burglary.
And so when Lee finds something and asks, "Where did this come from?" and I don't know, I said, "Someone broke in and left it here."
Yeah, we've had a lot of burglars depositing things.
They left a lot of cleaning supplies.
They did.
Yes. Okay. But anyways, that was just part of it. Another one is I have the little tether table, from Tether Tools that you put up on your tripod. So I've got my tripod. I have the little bar that you put up so you can put the table on one side and your ball head for your camera mount on the other side. I could not find the table for the life of me.
The table.
The table ended up being in the living room between a chair and an end table that we just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And it's probably been there for 3 years.
Yeah, because I've only ever seen it once, and I think it was the very first time I came to the house. You had it out, and that was the only time I'd seen it, so I wasn't even sure what we were looking for.
I don't know why it was there. I'm usually, for something like that, I kind of have a place to put it, and I figured that would have been next to the bar, which was here in my little home office. And that's where the tripod was. That's where the bar was, that holds the tether table, but it wasn't where the table was.
No, and I wasn't helping because you'd looked, and then after he'd looked, I'd come back and say, well, it doesn't matter if you've looked. Basically, I'll look again. It's almost like I don't believe you.
Yeah, I just looked everywhere. And I'm out in the garage with a flashlight. I'm doing all this stuff. So my part about gather your resources, before the shoot was very important. I remember to do that. The problem is I probably waited too long. The day before, I was just sick with a flu
I think
or a
that
cold,
was part
something
of it,
like
that was the day you were going to do it.
But the day before the shoot was, I would say, a little bit too late to be gathering your resources.
Yeah.
It's nice to confirm everything then, but to start looking for things that I thought I knew where they were, and it turns out I was wrong.
Well, you did want to do it before. It's just you were sick, and it kind of threw your plans.
Okay. So not only did I gather my resources, I gathered far too many because I brought a lot of things over there, and I tried to use a few things that just didn't pan out. And one of those issues was a combination of lights. I had the Elinchrom lights, but I've also got these new, it's like the Godox 8200. I've got the Flashpoint Evolve 200, and I was going to use that for a 4-light setup. But it didn't have the right modifier on it, so it didn't quite work out. And this was another mistake I think that I made, is that I went there with an idea for a 4-light setup that I had not tested anywhere before. And fortunately for me, the model was fine. She said, "Look, you want to try this out?" We did try it out for a while. She was okay with that. We didn't have any deadlines or time constraints on us. I think when I show up someplace, I want to be tested with everything I know and not try to experiment until after at least we've got all of our other shots.
Yeah, you did test them that they were working though before you went. I mean, what were you supposed to do? Because some of them actually only arrived recently.
Well, actually, the lights worked fine. What I didn't have was the right modifier on it because this was a higher up position coming down on her, and it was supposed to be kind of like a hair and texture light. But what it was doing was it was casting a harsh shadow along part of her neck. And I thought, all right, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
I've got a big 53-inch softbox here and a couple of rim lights, with gridded softboxes behind her for a nice soft light. Then suddenly I cast this hard light on her. The aim was a bit off, and it was a bit awkward where we were in the gym to fix that up. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to put that away and work with the 3-light setup that I usually do.
Yeah.
It was something I tried. Like I said, I had a lot of stuff. It took a while to set everything up. There weren't that many people in the gym, but it was working. There were other customers in there working out, and I didn't want to interfere with anybody.
I still don't think it's a problem to take too much stuff. It's better than I always say it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
And I definitely had everything I needed. I had stuff I didn't need. For example, I brought, the big reflectors with grids on those in case I wanted to do something else. But mostly I just stuck with the big 53-inch Octa softbox, and I had a couple of 24 by 36 with grids, for rim lights on each side. And I think that worked out very well. I got beautiful quality of light on my model. That was really nice. I've always liked these Electron lights, but they are going to go. As far as once I got there, I think I realized a few other things that were a bit different. I brought, the common light stands, and I brought my C stand for the monitor. I think I've gotten to the point now where I don't want to have those tiny little light stands anymore because they're only going to go down so low. The nice thing with a C stand is that even though it may have a point that's up high, it's got that boom arm where you can lower the light down low, because there was one of the things I wanted to do was do some uplighting with a beauty dish.
All right.
And so it was kind of one of those things where you realize what gear works best for you and what doesn't. And the C stands cost a little bit more, but they're sturdier, and I think they're more flexible. And it's not just any C stand. I've got an Avenger C stand, which at home is great because I never have to strike it and take it down. I just put it out in the garage. But I realize the Matthews C stand I have is much better because there's a little knob at the bottom so that you can just twist that and unlock it, and then you can collapse the legs. Whereas on the Avenger, you need to have an Allen wrench. And you've got to have the correct Allen wrench.
Well, that's a pain in the butt.
And I don't know where that Allen wrench is right now. So that C stand didn't come with me. It wasn't going to fit in the car quite the way I wanted to. So that's my recommendation is if you're going to get a C stand, make sure it has that little knob at the bottom. Matthews C stands are very sturdy. They have that knob. There's also a place called Norm's Studio. Is go to normstudio.equipment of all places. And it's a grip house out in California. I think a lot of the film industry people use it. They cost a little bit more than Matthews, but they've got a lot more options and they're sturdier. So just in case you're looking for a C stand, I'd say either Matthews or look at Norm's. On to the shoot. We had a good time. We did a number of portraits, and then I came back home after I loaded everything back up in the car. I think the thing that threw me off next that I really wasn't prepared for was that despite I looked at these photos and thought that I thought the ones that we picked were very good. Mm-hmm. There were some things that the model didn't quite like and wanted me to do in post-processing that I typically don't do.
Yeah.
And this is the one where I've got to think, I've got my purpose for these photos, but she also has hers. And
it's not the same.
And it's not the same. So what that means is I'm going to be doing kind of double post-processing on these images.
But that's not really so weird if you think about it. I mean, you take a photo for one purpose, and if somebody else needed the same photo for a different purpose, it kind of stands to reason that there might be a completely different way of presenting it.
Well, there is. For one thing, she wants to use them for a business. So she's probably going to use them more, I'd say, without the same kind of post-processing that I'm going to do for maybe an artistic statement. I'm guessing that because if you look at some advertising, some of them are just very clean, simple photographs. Some of them are very highly processed. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to do something on the grittier edge for my work that, for her lifting the weights and doing the action shots. But I don't think that really suits her purpose.
No, I think she wanted something a little more glossy. But that's what she wants. I guess I'm kind of weird because if you did photos in that environment of me, I would have wanted something a bit more gritty.
But it does kind of go back to one of the things I was talking about is at the beginning of this, I said, understand why you need this photo. The thing that I did was I thought about why I needed this photo. I should need to ask the question also, if you're sharing this with your subject or a customer or a client, whatever it may be, you need to ask why they need it. Because if you both have different purposes for it, it means you're going to have a little bit of double effort and work.
Yeah, so maybe you would have needed to take some extra photos.
Well, we took all the photos because as I was shooting, I was saying, okay, what would you like next? Because I knew what I wanted, and and we were definitely getting there. But this is one of the things where we knew we were also going to do some portraits, and we'd hired, someone to do the hair and makeup work, so that it made sense to do the portraits before she got all sweaty and all this. Her face starts running apart. So we did our portraits, and she had a couple of things that she had done with Pinterest, which I thought was great. It wasn't quite a mood board, but she said, these are shots that I like. I want to do something in the same vein of these. And we did a number of our photos like that. And I thought that was great because that gave me some ideas that I hadn't come up with as well. I did have one idea that I really liked, and it didn't quite work out. And that was something where I was going to have some spray bottles, spraying water kind of in the air just behind her and have the light catch it. So there was a little bit of particulate matter in the air. But we tried testing that out with a spray bottle, and instead of looking like water drops, it looked more like Fog. I brought the wrong spray bottle, I think.
You probably need a very specific type of nozzle for that.
Well, this is the part that gets me. It's like we actually went off shopping looking for water bottles to do this, and we didn't find the right water bottle.
No, we really didn't.
So it's like not something that you find at your average grocery store. And the one I had here at home was not quite the type of mist that I was looking for. So I am on a journey now to find the right kind of water spray bottle so I can get the look that I want, maybe on another subject.
You probably find it in a kid's toy store.
I hadn't thought of that. I haven't been in a kid's toy store in years.
Oh, I should take you.
Oh, now I've got a reason.
Stuff for the dogs as well.
No Legos, though. I hate stepping on those.
No Legos.
All right. So, Lee, you weren't at the shoot, but you saw this kind of like from beginning to end, like when I was preparing for it, because I talked about this with her, I think probably a month before we actually went to shoot.
Yeah.
So you saw me gathering my stuff and all the planning and research I was doing to get into it. And then you saw the results that came back. What kind of impression did that give you versus how I was talking about trying to put together my plan?
I think your planning and preparation was very good. I think you did everything above and beyond. You were really, really thorough in your preparation. You spent a long time putting this together. It wasn't a rush job. I think the big thing was really the gear.
Well, I was not organized about where my gear was that I wanted to take.
That always happens.
And it was it that or the fact that I wanted to take too much gear?
No, it had nothing to do with too much gear. We always have problems with finding gear.
Okay.
It's just one of the things that is kind of complicated. Getting out there, getting the photos. I mean, everything, I wasn't there, so it seemed to be fine when you came back.
I had about 4 hours or so, I think it was for this shoot.
You were gone for some time. When you came back, you were really quick at getting the photos uploaded and sharing them with her. And you got a few little samples done for her so that she could have something. I think that's also really important if you're shooting for somebody. As soon as the shoot's done, already in their mind, it's kind of the clock is ticking, like, when am I going to get my photos?
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because you're right. You do want to deliver. And the first thing I deliver is not necessarily retouched photos. I did not do anything other than load them into Lightroom. Matter of fact, I had shot tethered into Lightroom, so the photos were already there. And as we were doing the shoot, I would let her review them and she would pick, inside of Lightroom. So we had a flag on the images that she really liked. But I basically collected all the images, exported them as high res, not full high res, but I'd say like HD resolution photos, put them in a zip file, and then put them up on my Dropbox so she could look at them and then say, okay, here's what I would really like. And the next morning, she had a list of, the photo numbers and said, here's the ones I'd like you to do post-processing on.
Yeah.
Because there's absolutely no point in doing post-processing for her for something that she's just not going to like.
No, that's true. But the stuff that you want to use, you can take your picks.
All right. So after that, then I started doing the post-processing. And then that's where I kind of discovered, okay, we had different visions of how to process these images. But we've kind of talked through that over the past day. And I think I understand what she's looking for. And she's quite happy for me to do what I want to do with them for my purpose. She signed, a full model release, giving me, basically a nice commercial license to do what I need to do.
No, that's good. That's the other important thing, and that has to be done before, is make sure that you both understand what is expected and, from both sides.
One thing I did not bring with me, and as a hindsight, I want to do this on future shoots for this project, is have a checklist on hand when I'm doing the shoot. I brought gear that I didn't use, and one of them that really, it didn't turn out so bad, but one of them that I almost always use and didn't use on this one was my X-Rite Color Checker Passport Pro. So basically I make sure I take a shot of that within the lights, and that gives me a color or a camera profile. So I make sure I've got the exact right colors. It really wasn't a problem here. I mean, I don't think any of the colors were off on what I did.
No, it's really not. I mean, the rest of us just kind of, simple photographers just use the Lightroom.
This is it. Oh, and Lightroom will work fine. There's nothing wrong with the skin tones or any problems like that, but it's one of those things that I like to have to use as a reference. So that way, if I do have a problem with white balance or color correction, then I can get that.
It's part of your workflow, and I totally get that.
And what happened is I got there and I was doing so much stuff, I forgot certain things that I wanted to do, and not many of them, but there were like 2 or 3 things that I thought, I wish I'd done this or done that. I think on my next outing, I'm going to have a checklist, so that way I'm looking at it as we go, kind of same way we go to the grocery store. We've got a list there of what we want to get.
Yes. When did you start using a list at the grocery store?
You use the list. I just look at you and ask you what's next on the list. But this is going to be my list for the photo shoot. It's like, did I get my white balance shot? Did I get my color correction shot? And also kind of the things that we were talking about the model to myself about what kind of shots we want to get. I want to put those, these are the must-haves. These would be nice to do. And then if there's time, here's what we can experiment with.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think that kind of checklist is actually a good idea.
I think it was really successful overall. I mean, you got some great photos. She's happy. You're happy.
I am really happy with the photos that I got.
I think when you're working with a human, in other words, if you're serving somebody else and it's actually a person, because sometimes you're taking photos of stuff, it's very important to communicate, and sometimes that discussion takes place afterwards.
It does, and I was just thinking again, one of the things that I would have really liked to have gotten and should have taken was kind of a behind the scenes shot of what the lighting setup looked like.
Didn't you have one?
I think I've got one in there, but I probably should have done more because I did change my lighting setup a few times. I should remember, all right, if I'm going to change my setup, look at the shot list and then say, take another, behind the scenes or setup shot. So, because those are things that are good for the blog post, or just kind of use as reference material and say, this worked for me or this didn't, or here's maybe why I had a problem because, it's a gym and there are heavy weights all over the place. She can lift them up, but I can't. The day after our photo shoot, this woman was in there. She posted a video on her Instagram of her doing a squat with 305 pounds of weights on her shoulders.
I know, that's crazy.
And I thought, oh my.
Yeah, I don't do weights like that.
It just makes me feel inadequate. But overall, I'd say it was a very successful shoot. There were a couple things I wish I'd done. I wish I'd been a bit more organized. And now, since when I came back, because I was so frustrated with where everything was, I put it all in the same place. I know where it is now.
It's a learning curve.
It is. I haven't done these kind of shoots where I was taking so much stuff. And
I think that's part of the problem, though. When you're not in your rhythm of doing things, I was the same when I started out. Even with my little shoots, I was always running back and forth inside, outside the house to get my stuff. And then something would still be forgotten and I'd have to, disassemble the whole thing so I could get back through the door. Now I've got a little system going. And if you're doing something on a regular basis, you don't have these problems, or very rarely.
I think that's true. And there was a reason why I didn't want to book anyone else until after I'd done this shoot. This was kind of like my shakeout cruise.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
I got a chance to go out there and go through all the motions and see what I did right, what I did wrong. I think most of the stuff I did right, but I want to correct the stuff that I would have liked to have done better before I go off and find my next subject, which you've recommended a couple people to me, and I haven't contacted them yet, but also my subject for this one recommended me to her friends. So now I'm going to have more people coming along, and I think that I'm going to be better prepared for going off and doing the rest of my shots.
Oh, you're the best photographer I know. I always recommend you.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Okay, so that was kind of the little aftermath of my portfolio photo session. I would love to know if you've got any questions, if you got any comments, or just want to tell me to make sure I know where my stuff is.
Send him a prompt.
Yeah, just please go ahead, leave a comment on the post. Thank you very much for listening to us on the Photo Flunky Show. This is going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 110. And I'll have some photos there from behind the scenes, a little bit of what I've got and a couple of the shots of my subjects, so you can see what I did and what I had to work with. Also, I used my free Lightroom portrait brushes on a couple of the portrait shots of them. So if you're looking to use Lightroom for enhancing your portrait shots, just go to williambeem.com/free brushes. And I hope that helps you out very much. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next week.